I chose the book Thank You, Mr. Falker for my third case study. The book is about a young girl who actually is Patricia Polacco, who is the author of the book, and her journey with dyslexia and how she tries to hide the fact that she has dyslexia in school for a really long time. And it works until around the third grade, where she meets her teacher, Mr. Falker, who does not let the signs of dyslexia just slip by. When I was looking at other references to see how realistic and helpful this book actually would be, I found an article on Understood about accommodations for dyslexia, and in the article, it talked a lot about giving the student multiple opportunities to read the same text. And in this specific case of Polacco, it did not work because she was able to just memorize the text when reading it multiple times, and she was able to fool a lot of her teachers into thinking that she was actually reading it, but she was not. Understood gave another accommodation that is giving step-by-step directions, and unlike the last, this really helped Polacco. An example she gave was letters, 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 words, 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 always sounding them out. So she felt that she was always sounding out one word at a time, never reading more than one sentence, and this went on for a really long time, but then eventually they gave her a paragraph to read, and she was able to do it on her own with minimal struggling because she had taken things really slowly and worked her way up. In the book, Polacco also talked about how almost every day after school she met with Mr. Falker, who was her in-class teacher, and then Miss Plessy, who was a specific reading teacher. And Understood confirms that this is a good accommodation because teachers should check in frequently and make sure that the student is understanding what's happening in the classroom. And obviously, almost every day after school is checking in very frequently. Understood also made it clear that it's really helpful to break assignments into smaller steps. And Polacco agreed with this for sure. She talks about they did a lot of things I didn't understand. At first, she made circles in sand and then a big sponge circle on the blackboard going from left to right, so as you would when reading. And she started out with these really small steps. And at first, she didn't understand why they were making her do these things that didn't necessarily have to do with reading or looking at numbers. But over time, she developed skills that really helped her. And even though the student doesn't always recognize it, these small steps are really helpful. I felt that the book did a great job at explaining the disability, especially from a child's point of view. Things such as wiggling shapes on the paper or numbers look like a stack of blocks, wobbly and ready to fall. Those are really important. And it also showed how peers' words and judgments can make a student feel even worse about their disability. I felt it's important for students to hear this story, but it's also important for teachers to listen to because it shows how much of an effect a teacher can really have on a student. I would absolutely read this book in a classroom. I want to teach kindergarten, and I felt like this might be a little bit wordy for kindergarten, but in a class like second grade, I think this would be a really good book, and it would allow the students to feel empathetic because I feel like they could really relate to the story. And these are the references I used, both the Understood article and Thank You, Mr. Falker.